The blue-white marble of Earth hung in space, surrounded by its children, the colonies of Mars, Europa, and Titan. Humanity had spread through their solar system over decades of hard work and sacrifice. They had conquered radiation, vacuum, and the crushing gravity wells that kept lesser beings planet-bound. Admiral Henry Brooks stood at the viewport of UESC headquarters on Luna, watching Earth rotate slowly below. His weathered face reflected both pride and worry. A message had arrived from the Jupiter outpost. Unknown ships had entered the solar system. "Sir, they're requesting to speak with our leaders," said Communications Officer Linda Park. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "Tell them I'm on my way," Brooks replied. After decades in space, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. The alien ships were like nothing humans had ever built. They shimmered with an inner light, their hulls curved in ways that seemed impossible. No visible engines, no radiation signatures. They simply moved, defying the physics humans understood. When the aliens called themselves the Galactic Conclave, a coalition of 17 spacefaring species, Brooks felt a chill. 17 advanced civilizations, and humans had met none of them until now. The main representative, a tall being with silvery skin and 4 arms called Ambassador Zithkal, spoke perfect English through some kind of translator device. "We have been observing your species for some time," the alien said, its voice melodic yet unsettling. "You have achieved much without the gifts that most spacefaring races possess." Diplomat Lisa Morgan stepped forward. She had been rushed from Earth when the aliens arrived. Her expertise in international relations now extended to interstellar ones. "What gifts do you mean?" she asked. "Psychic abilities, quantum consciousness, the natural connection to the fabric of space-time." Ambassador Zithkal made a gesture with its upper arms that might have been pity. "That you achieve space travel with only your physical tools and chemical rockets is remarkable." Brooks felt his face flush. The condescension was clear even across species. The meeting continued for hours. The Zithrians, as they called themselves, offered Earth protectorate status within the conclave, not full membership that was reserved for evolved species, but protection and limited technological exchange. "We can help you develop properly," said Zithkal. "Under our guidance, perhaps in several centuries, your species might evolve the necessary mental abilities." Later, in the privacy of the command center, Brooks pounded his fist on the table. "They talk to us like we're children," he growled. "Did you see their faces when we showed them our military capabilities? They actually laughed." Morgan nodded, her expression troubled. "They're offering us scraps from their table. Basic medical technology, some agricultural improvements. Nothing that would put us on equal footing. And nothing weapons-related," added Security Chief Paul Harris. "They refuse to discuss defensive systems or propulsion technology." The next day, Earth's leaders announced the historic first contact to the public. People celebrated in the streets, imagining a golden age of advancement with alien allies. Only those in the meetings understood the truth. Humanity had been judged and found wanting. The aliens saw humans as clever pets, not equals. 2 weeks later, the first conclave embassy opened in Geneva. Ambassador Zithkal moved with grace through the human-designed building, occasionally touching walls or furniture with a look of amusement, as if admiring a child's crude drawings. "Your species shows promise," the alien told reporters. "We will help guide you from your primitive state to true civilization." Admiral Brooks watched the broadcast from his office on Luna, his jaw tight. He turned to his assistant and spoke words that would later prove prophetic. "They think we're primitive because we don't have their psychic powers or fancy technology. But humans have something they don't understand. We've had to fight for everything we've ever achieved. And if there's one thing humans know better than anyone in this galaxy, it's how to fight." He didn't know then how soon his words would be tested. 5 years passed since first contact. Earth had changed. Tall silver buildings now stood among the old structures, gifts from the Conclave. Their medical technology had cured several human diseases. Their farming methods had ended hunger in many places. But not all gifts were given freely. The aliens still refused to share their best technology, especially weapons and faster ships. Primitive species cannot be trusted with advanced tools, Ambassador Zithkel often said with what humans now recognized as a smile. Captain Frank Miller did not smile back when aliens said such things. He commanded the patrol ship Defiance, guarding the edges of Sol's system. The ship was humanity's own creation, improved with the limited alien tech they were allowed to have. Miller stood on his bridge, watching the stars. His ship moved slowly around Pluto's orbit, the farthest human patrol route. "Captain, incoming message from Conclave Deep Space Relay," said Officer Ryan Bell, his voice unusually tense. "Priority 1. The message showed damaged alien ships fleeing from something. The video was broken, but the fear in the alien voices came through clearly. "The void hegemony has broken through at Proxima Centauri," translated the computer. "3 systems lost. Request immediate reinforcement." Miller's crew watched in silence. The Conclave, with all their advanced technology, was losing a war. Over the next weeks, more news arrived. The void hegemony, aliens who evolved in dark matter regions of space, were attacking Conclave worlds. Their ships moved in ways that defied normal physics. Their weapons cut through Conclave defenses easily. At UEAC headquarters, Admiral Brooks met with his officers to discuss the reports. "The Conclave is taking heavy losses," said Tactical Officer Samantha Wright. She was young but brilliant, recently promoted for her study of alien battle tactics. "I've analyzed the battle recordings they shared with us. The Conclave fights with precise, calculated movements, but the hegemony is unpredictable." She showed videos of space battles. The beautiful Conclave ships moved in perfect formations. The dark, twisted ships of the hegemony seemed to strike from nowhere, following no pattern. "The Conclave thinks only in straight lines," Wright explained. "They use the same tactics every time because their simulations say they're perfect. But the hegemony doesn't play by their rules." Brooks nodded slowly. "Sounds familiar. When has any real war followed the perfect plan?" The meeting was interrupted when an emergency alert sounded. A damaged Conclave ship had entered Sol's system, barely able to move. The ship's captain, a Zithrian named Excelamore, was brought to Luna Base. "The hegemony destroyed 3 of our border fleets," the alien said, its silver skin now dull with exhaustion. "They're moving this way." "How long do we have?" Brooks asked. "Weeks, maybe days," replied Excelamore. "You should evacuate your colonies. Your technology cannot stop them. Even ours cannot." Brooks and Wright exchanged looks. The Conclave had always acted superior, but now they were running scared. "With respect," said Wright, "we'd like to see their battle tactics for ourselves." Excelamore connected a small device to the human computers. It showed hundreds of battles, all Conclave losses. As they watched, Wright began to notice patterns. "The hegemony has weaknesses. They always attack the same way when faced with certain situations." "Impossible," said Excelamore. "Our best minds found no pattern." Wright pointed to the screen. "There, and there again. They become predictable when forced to defend." Admiral Brooks smiled for the first time in days. "Officer Wright, prepare a full analysis. Captain Miller, recall all patrol ships." He turned to the confused alien. "The Conclave may have given up, but humanity has been fighting against bad odds since we learned to make fire. And we're not about to stop now." The warning sirens began to sound. At Neptune's research station, the first attack had begun. The Neptune research station's distress call reached Earth 16 minutes after the attack began. The message was broken, filled with static, but the fear in the scientist's voice was clear. "Unknown ships, black like holes in space, weapons unlike anything. Need immediate." Then silence. In the UESC command center, Admiral Brooks replayed the message 3 times. The conclave representatives stood nearby, their silvery faces showing what humans now recognize as their version of fear. "You must evacuate your outer colonies," said Ambassador Zithkal. "The hegemony cannot be stopped with your level of technology." Brooks ignored him. "Commander Davis," he called. Olivia Davis stepped forward. She was one of UESC's best tactical commanders, with 15 years of experience. Her short red hair and steady gaze gave her an air of calm confidence. "Sir, take the defense fleet to Neptune. Save as many of our people as you can." The conclave ambassador made a sound of disbelief. "You are sending ships. Did you not hear me? The hegemony destroyed entire conclave battle groups. Your ships will be annihilated." Davis looked at the alien, then back to Brooks. "We'll leave in 10 minutes, sir." As Davis prepared to depart, Tactical Officer Wright approached her with data tablets. "I've analyzed their attack patterns," Wright said, showing Davis the battle recordings. "The hegemony always follows up a main attack with a flanking maneuver from these vectors. They never expect counterattacks from below the orbital plane." Davis nodded. "Good work. Upload everything to my ship." Davis's small fleet, 5 battleships and 12 fighters, departed for Neptune. The journey would take hours even with their best engines. Everyone knew they might arrive too late. On the Neptune station, the remaining 53 humans had barricaded themselves in the central hub. The strange black ships of the hegemony circled the station like sharks. Occasionally, dark energy beams would cut through parts of the structure, testing defenses. Dr. Alan Foster, the station's lead scientist, had armed his people with whatever they could find. Most had never fired a weapon before today. "Hold steady," he told them. "Help is coming." Davis's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Neptune's largest moon, Triton. From there, they could see the hegemony ships, 7 vessels of varying sizes, all with the same disturbing appearance. They seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "They haven't spotted us yet," said Davis's second-in-command, Lieutenant Ben Ward. "We have surprise on our side." Davis studied the tactical display. Officer Wright was right. Look at their formation. They're preparing to attack from above while keeping their lower quadrant completely undefended. She made her decision quickly. Split the fleet. Battleships will draw their attention with a frontal assault. Fighters will swing under the orbital plane and hit them from below. The battle began with a fury that surprised even the humans. The hegemony ships responded instantly to the battleship's approach, firing weapons that seemed to bend space itself. 2 human battleships were hit immediately. One exploded. The other spun away, heavily damaged. But while the hegemony focused upward, the human fighters swept in from below, firing their missiles directly at the weak points Wright had identified. 3 hegemony ships erupted in silent explosions before they realized what was happening. In the conclave embassy on Earth, Ambassador Zithkal and other aliens watched the battle through their long-range sensors. Their expressions changed from certainty of human defeat to confusion. "Impossible," whispered one Zithrian. "These primitives are winning." The battle raged for 3 more hours. Davis lost half her fleet, but her tactics, unpredictable, constantly changing, kept the hegemony off balance. When the last enemy ship retreated, Davis immediately sent rescue teams to the station. 48 humans had survived. As the fleet limped home, carrying the survivors and their dead, a message arrived from Earth. The Conclave Council was requesting an emergency meeting with human leaders. For the first time, they wanted to talk as equals. The meeting room at Luna Base was filled with an unusual mix of humans and aliens. Admiral Brooks sat at the head of the table, with Commander Davis and Officer Wright beside him. Across from them sat Ambassador Zithkal and 3 other Conclave representatives. "We have reviewed your battle at Neptune," said Zithkal. The alien's voice no longer carried its usual tone of superiority. "Your tactics were effective." "That's one way of putting it," said Brooks. "We lost good people out there, but we stopped them." Admiral Aaron Peterson, head of UESC Strategic Command, stood up and activated the room's display system. A complex battle plan appeared in the air between them. "This is Operation Thunderbolt," he explained, "a coordinated defense strategy for the entire Sol system based on what we learned at Neptune." The Conclave representatives studied the plan with expressions humans now recognized as surprise. "This plan uses unpredictable patrol routes and hidden weapon platforms," said one alien, a blue-skinned female named Selvana. "Our simulations always show that strict, orderly defenses are optimal." "That's because your simulations assume your enemy thinks like you do," said Wright. "The hegemony doesn't. Neither do we." Dr. Karen Reynolds, a civilian scientist with dark curly hair and intense eyes, joined the conversation. She had been studying the communication patterns of the hegemony ships from the battle recordings. "Their ships communicate using quantum entanglement," she explained, showing data on the display. "But there's a pattern to it, a rhythm. I believe we can disrupt it." The aliens looked at each other in shock. "We have studied the hegemony for decades," said Zithkal. "Our best minds found no weakness in their communication systems." Reynolds smiled. "Sometimes it takes a different perspective. Your people look for mathematical perfection. We look for the tiny flaws that make something real." The meeting continued for hours as humans presented their ideas. Some were rejected, but many were approved by both sides. For the first time, the Conclave began sharing their more advanced technology, not as gifts to primitive beings, but as necessary tools for allies. Earth's manufacturing centers began working around the clock, building new weapons that combined human designs with alien technology. The result was neither purely human nor conclave, but something new. At the lunar shipyards, Commander John Ramirez trained mixed teams of human and alien soldiers. The training was difficult. Humans lacked the psychic abilities the aliens relied on, while the aliens struggled with the physical demands humans took for granted. "Stop trying to read my mind and watch my hand signals," Ramirez shouted during one frustrating exercise. "In combat, you won't have time for a psychic conference call." The aliens were confused at first, but slowly began to adapt to human methods. Some even showed respect for the physical endurance of their human teammates. In Geneva, the Conclave embassy had changed. Ambassador Xolin, who had replaced Zithkal as lead representative, met with human leaders daily. His attitude was different from his predecessors. "We made a mistake," he admitted during one meeting. "We judged your species by our standards alone. We saw your lack of psychic ability as a deficiency rather than a different evolutionary path." News reports from the front lines grew worse daily. The hegemony had destroyed 3 more conclave worlds and was moving steadily toward Sol. But now, instead of suggesting evacuation, the conclave was working with humans on defense plans. Late one night, as Reynolds worked in her lab, she intercepted a hegemony communication that chilled her blood. She immediately called Admiral Brooks. "Sir," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "I've translated part of their battle orders. The hegemony has classified humans as their primary threat in this sector. They're sending a major fleet specifically to destroy us." Brooks was silent for a moment. Then he smiled grimly. "Good. That means they're afraid of us." For the first time in history, humanity was preparing to fight an interstellar war, and the galaxy was beginning to understand that primitive did not mean harmless. The joint human conclave fleet gathered near Jupiter's orbit. 43 ships in total, 15 human vessels and 28 alien craft, prepared for humanity's first mission beyond their solar system. Fleet Commander Patricia Wilson stood on the bridge of the UESC Intrepid, the largest human battleship ever built. At 52, Wilson had spent more than half her life in space. Her gray-streaked black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her dark eyes missed nothing. "All ships report ready, Commander," said her communications officer. Wilson nodded. "Send the signal. Operation Spearhead begins now." The fleet moved as one, entering faster than light travel toward their target. a major hegemony supply base in a nearby star system. Intelligence from Conclave scouts showed it was defended by at least 30 hegemony warships. In the Intrepid's fighter bay, Lieutenant Daniel Garcia checked his ship one last time. He was part of Strike Team Alpha, tasked with a mission that many considered impossible, boarding the Hegemony Command Station. Remember, he told his mixed team of human and alien pilots, they're expecting perfect, logical attack patterns. We're going to give them chaos instead. The fleet dropped out of FTL travel at the edge of the target system. Immediately, hegemony sensors detected them, and enemy ships began to move to intercept. They're forming a standard defense grid, reported the Zithrian tactical officer on the Intrepid. Just as our simulations predicted. Wilson smiled. Then let's do something they didn't simulate. Battle Group 1. Execute Pattern Trafalgar. The human ships suddenly broke formation, moving in ways that seemed random to observers. The maneuver was based on an ancient naval battle from Earth's history, adapted for three-dimensional space combat. On the Hegemony Command Station, the alien leaders watched in confusion as the human ships scattered in all directions. They've lost formation cohesion, one reported. Their attack has failed before it began. But they were wrong. The scattered human ships were actually executing a complex plan, while the Conclave ships engaged the main hegemony fleet in a conventional battle. Human vessels slipped through gaps in the enemy defenses. Garcia's fighters used the larger battles as cover, approaching the command station from an angle the hegemony had left undefended. They never protect their ventral approach, Garcia told his team. They think no one would be crazy enough to fly through their engine emissions. His fighter led the way, diving through streams of superheated particles that would have melted less shielded craft. The team lost 2 fighters in the approach, but the rest made it to the docking bay. Inside the station, Garcia's team moved quickly through alien corridors. The hegemony, never expecting borders, had few internal defenses. Plant the charges here, Garcia ordered when they reached the central data core, and download everything you can. While the boarding team worked, the space battle raged. Human ships performed maneuvers that the Conclave pilots could not replicate: tight turns, unpredictable vector changes, and what looked like suicidal attack runs that somehow worked. How are they flying like that? Asked a Conclave captain, watching a human fighter survive what should have been certain death. They're using instinct, not calculation, answered their human advisor. Sometimes the best move isn't the most logical one. After 3 hours of battle, Garcia's team returned to their fighters with the stolen data. As they escaped, charges detonated throughout the station, crippling it. Wilson ordered a fighting retreat once all strike teams were recovered. The fleet had lost 7 ships, 3 human and 4 Conclave, but they had destroyed 12 enemy vessels and severely damaged the supply base. Back at Sol System, scientists began analyzing the stolen data. What they found changed everything. It's their fleet movements for the next 3 months, Dr. Reynolds told the War Council, including their planned attack on Earth. Ambassador Solon, watching human and Conclave officers working side by side, turned to Admiral Brooks. In all our history, the alien said quietly, no species has ever successfully raided a hegemony command station. Perhaps we should reconsider what primitive truly means. Brooks nodded. You might want to hurry with that reconsideration. According to this data, we have 2 weeks before their main fleet arrives. The war room at Luna Base was silent as the holographic display showed the approaching hegemony armada. Over 200 ships, including a massive vessel at the center that was unlike anything seen before. What is that? Asked Admiral Brooks, pointing to the central ship. Ambassador Solon's silver face darkened. The World Breaker. It can destroy planets. The hegemony used it on 3 Conclave homeworlds already. The room fell silent again. Humanity had fought bravely, but this was beyond anything they could stop with conventional means. How does it work? Asked Dr. William Taylor, a quiet man who rarely spoke at these meetings. He was Earth's leading physicist, pulled from his university to help with the war effort. It creates a quantum resonance field that destabilizes a planet's core, explained Solon. There is no defense against it. Taylor looked thoughtful. Quantum resonance. That's similar to how your psychic abilities work, isn't it? Solon seemed surprised. Yes. Our evolutionary path gave us natural quantum entanglement in our brains. The hegemony weapon uses artificial versions of the same principle. Taylor stood up and walked to a computer terminal. I want to see brain scans of humans and conclave species side by side. The images appeared on screen. Alien brains showed complex patterns of quantum activity. Human brains showed none of that, but had their own unique patterns. Our brains work completely differently, Taylor said. We don't have quantum consciousness like you do. We use electrochemical signals instead. That is why we considered you primitive, said Solon, without the condescension that would have been in his voice months ago. Or maybe it's why we can stop this weapon, Taylor replied. For the next 7 days, Taylor worked with Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez and a team of human and alien scientists. They rarely slept, knowing that the hegemony fleet drew closer every hour. On the 7th day, Taylor called the War Council together. We've created a device we call the Psychic Disruptor, he announced, showing them a spherical object about the size of a beach ball. It generates patterns based on human brain activity that should disrupt the hegemony's quantum systems. Should? Asked Admiral Peterson. We can't test it fully, Rodriguez admitted, but our simulations show a 70% chance of success. The conclave representatives conferred with each other using their psychic abilities. After a moment, Solon spoke. The Conclave Council has reviewed your design. They believe it will fail. Human brain patterns are too chaotic, too primitive to be weaponized this way. Brooks slammed his hand on the table. And where has conclave technology gotten us so far? We're facing a planet killer. There's another problem, said Rodriguez quietly. The device has to be delivered directly to the World Breaker ship. It needs to be within 1 kilometer to work, and whoever delivers it won't be coming back. Silence fell over the room again. Then a voice spoke from the back. I'll take it. Captain Eric Johnson stepped forward. He was younger than most senior officers, promoted quickly after showing exceptional skill in the Neptune battle. My ship is the fastest we have. I can get close enough. Brooks started to object, but Johnson cut him off. Sir, with respect, this is why we fight. To protect our home. The next day, as the hegemony fleet reached Saturn's orbit, the Joint Human Conclave Defense Force moved to intercept them. Johnson's ship, carrying the disruptor, held back, waiting for its moment. Ambassador Solon approached Johnson before the mission. The Conclave Council rejected this plan, the alien said. They ordered me to stop it. Johnson tensed, ready to argue. But I am choosing to ignore those orders, Solon continued. Your species has shown me that sometimes logic must give way to. What do you call it? A gut feeling. Johnson smiled. Thank you, Ambassador. As the massive fleets engaged in battle, Johnson watched for his opening. The World Breaker stayed behind the main hegemony forces, protected by dozens of ships. This is Captain Johnson, he radioed. Beginning approach run. Give me a hole to fly through. The human and conclave ships coordinated their attacks, focusing fire to create a narrow corridor through the enemy fleet. Johnson took a deep breath and pushed his engines to maximum. His ship shot forward, toward the heart of the enemy fleet, carrying humanity's last hope. Captain Eric Johnson's ship raced through space, dodging enemy fire as it shot through the narrow corridor created by the combined human conclave fleet. The World Breaker loomed ahead, massive and threatening, its surface covered with strange, pulsing lights. 30 seconds to target range, Johnson said calmly into his communicator. The psychic disruptor hummed in the cargo bay behind him. Back at Earth, Admiral Brooks coordinated the defense as reports came in from across the solar system. The battle had reached Jupiter's orbit, with casualties mounting on both sides. "The hegemony is pushing through Sector 7, reported Commander Davis. Her voice was strained, her ship damaged. "We can't hold them much longer." Brooks looked at the tactical display. The human conclave fleet was fighting bravely, but they were outnumbered. Everything depended on Johnson's mission now. In his ship, Johnson felt a massive impact as a hegemony beam struck his port engine. Warning lights flashed across his control panel. "Main drive failing," he muttered, switching to auxiliary power. The ship slowed dramatically. At this speed, he wouldn't reach the target zone before the hegemony ships closed in around him. Johnson made a quick decision. "Computer, divert all power from life support to engines." Warning: this action will result in critical life support failure in 3 minutes, the computer responded. "I won't need it that long," Johnson said with grim determination. His ship surged forward again. The temperature in the cabin began to drop as life support systems shut down. His breath formed clouds in the cold air. On the world breaker, hegemony commanders detected the approaching human ship. "Small vessel approaching at high speed," one reported. "Intentions unknown." "Destroy it," ordered their leader. Beams of dark energy lanced out from the world breaker's weapons. Most missed as Johnson's ship weaved unpredictably, but one struck the starboard side, tearing a hole in the hull. "Hull breach in cargo bay," the computer announced. 60 seconds to vacuum exposure." Johnson gritted his teeth. "Just need to get a little closer." At Luna Base, Dr. Taylor and Maria Rodriguez watched Johnson's ship on the tracking system. "He's almost in range," Rodriguez said, her voice tight with tension. "But his ship is breaking apart." Taylor nodded grimly. "The disruptor will activate automatically when it's in range. All he has to do is get there." "Target zone reached," the computer announced. "Activate the disruptor," Johnson gasped. In the cargo bay, the sphere began to pulse with energy, patterns derived from human brainwaves, chaotic, unpredictable, primitive, flooded outward toward the world breaker. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the pulsing lights on the massive enemy ship began to flicker and die. On the command deck of the UESC Intrepid, a Zithrian officer looked up in shock. "The hegemony ships, they're losing cohesion. The hive mind connection is failing." Commander Wilson didn't waste the opportunity. "All ships, press the attack. They can't coordinate their defenses." The combined fleet surged forward, targeting enemy vessels that now moved erratically, without their usual precision. Johnson's ship drifted silently near the massive world breaker, its mission complete. Inside the freezing cabin, Johnson watched through the viewport as the enemy fleet began to fall apart. A smile formed on his lips as his eyes closed for the last time. 3 days later, when the battle was over and the hegemony fleet destroyed or scattered, a solemn ceremony was held at Luna Base. Human and alien representatives stood side by side to honor the fallen. Admiral Brooks placed a medal on a simple memorial stone. Captain Eric Johnson gave his life, not just for humanity, but for all sentient beings threatened by the hegemony. Ambassador Xolin stepped forward. "The Conclave Council has voted unanimously to offer Earth full membership status. Furthermore, our newest ship class will be named Johnson in honor of your brave captain." The ambassador paused, then added words that would be remembered for generations. "We once called humans primitive because you lacked what we considered essential evolutionary advantages. We were wrong. Your unique minds, your chaos, your emotions, your instincts, these are not weaknesses but strengths we had forgotten. The galaxy will not forget what humanity has taught us." As the ceremony ended, human and alien leaders turned their attention to rebuilding. The war had changed everything. Humanity had proven that being different didn't mean being less. Sometimes, being primitive meant being free to think in ways the more advanced species could not imagine. And in the stars above, mixed crews of humans and aliens prepared to defend the galaxy together.